Well, hello everybody, and thank you for joining us today for this webinar on postgraduate study at the Auckland Bioengineering Institute. My name is Mark True. I'm a fellow at the Auckland Bioengineering Institute, and today I'm joined by Feng Chan, who is also a fellow here, and Megan, who is one of our senior PhD students. And we're really pleased that you could join us from whatever part of the world and whatever time zone you're in. We're hoping that you will be able to get some useful and exciting information, we hope, about the Auckland Bioengineering Institute and what we can offer in terms of postgraduate study. The Auckland Bioengineering Institute is a melting pot of a great number of nationalities and disciplines. We've got more than 300 staff and students in this institute, so it is quite a large place. And we hail from over 40 different countries. And this fosters a really creative research environment and one that reflects the many traditions of our student, academic, and professional body. For example, next week, or in a couple of weeks, we're going to be thinking about celebrating the Sinhala and Tamil New Year. And so that is a reflection of some of our research community here at the ABI. And we often celebrate many other annual events as well. We'd like to know where you're from, so please in the chat, give us a bit of a hail, tell us which country you're from, and we'll be able to just enjoy finding that out a little bit more. And do please ask questions in the chat as we go along, and we'll have some time at the end of our presentation to address those in detail. So as an internationally respected academic institute, part of the University of Auckland, we were established in 2001, so we've been around for quite a long time now. And one of our major goals is to work at enhancing the diagnosis and treatment of a range of medical conditions, and then, of course, to translate this and to help improve the lives of people with disability or injury. We have world-class researchers that work on over 20 different project areas, including science and clinical studies, implantable medical devices, biosensors and augmented reality, data science, artificial intelligence and software, imaging technologies and analysis, biophysical models and digital twins, computational physiology, and biotech and animal health. And so this covers, as you can see, a really broad range of not only research areas, but skill and capacity areas. And so whatever your background, whatever your interests are, undoubtedly there will be some research strand at the Auckland Bioengineering Institute that will meet your particular interests. Now, we encourage qualified graduates to study with us, and Fang, you're going to tell us a little bit about those pathways.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, so the Auckland Bioengineering Institute encourages postgraduate study at our institute. So we offer a Masters of Engineering degree, and this is typically someone that has a previous undergraduate degree, a bachelor's degree in a STEM-related subject. For example, engineering, a Bachelor of Engineering, Bachelor of Science degree. And then given a certain GPE or like a B average grade, they can enroll into a 12 or 18-month research Masters of Bioengineering program. And this typically has two start dates. The first one, they coincide with the typical semester enrollment dates for the undergraduate degrees. So semester 1 is in March, so that's already occurred earlier this year, and then semester 2 is in July. And then we also offer our PhD degree, our PhD in bioengineering. And this typically is for students that have a 4-year undergraduate degree in engineering, science, maths, etc. And this, or if you've also undertaken a previous master's degree. So the main difference is having this significant research project, and this will allow you entry to the PhD program. Next slide, please. But however, there is also a kind of third or alternative pathway into the PhD program, and this is our new postgraduate certificate program, called our PG Cert in Bioengineering. And this is for students who perhaps have done this 4-year degree, but do not have didn't have the previous significant prior research. So this will involve undertaking a kind of 6-month PG cert, where you will do a small research project and do 2 kind of postgraduate level papers on physics of physiology and bioinstrumentation. And this will allow you to then, after 6 months, go directly into the PhD program. And so this is currently a kind of invitation only postgraduate program. And so if you are interested in any of these postgraduate programs, please get in touch with the ABI Postgrad Committee, and we'll also provide our email address in the chat, at some point during this webinar.
Yeah, thank you, Fang. And so we're just encouraging anybody who's interested to consider applying to the University of Auckland for PhD admission, and they will give you directions as to whether or not you might be eligible for something like the PG Cert pathway if you don't have the prerequisites for a research project. Studying at the ABI is an intensely rewarding experience. You get to work with like-minded colleagues and be supervised by research academics working in all of the different fields, as we talked before, that are associated with the Auckland Bioengineering Institute. And I really personally enjoy the process of supervising. It's a great opportunity to work with enthusiastic researchers, many of them young, energetic, and delving into research, intense research for the first time. And that can be very motivating to work with them. Fang, what do you like about supervising the research students that you're working with?
Yeah, I think I have very similar kind of feelings about this, and kind of my main thing is kind of supervising and kind of mentoring the kind of next generation of bioengineering, and especially having come through the undergraduate program here myself, I find it very rewarding to supervise previous kind of undergrads from the biomedical engineering program into a PhD here at the ABI.
Mm-hmm. So the environment becomes very supportive, it's collaborative and collegial. We enjoy spending time. For example, that photograph you can see at the middle is at our annual research forum, where we get together and share research projects from across the Auckland Bioengineering Institute. At the end of a postgraduate degree, you graduate with a world-class recognized degree from a top university. And as part of that process, you're inspired by the innovative research in health and medical science with applications into population health and improving health in the population and broader than that. And you get opportunities to present research both in New Zealand and around the world. And this can be quite a good time. There's a really diverse science, technology, engineering, and mathematics backgrounds of colleagues and their prior experiences, and this is a good way to build your own areas of interest, expertise, and find potentially new research paths as you go through your study as well. Megan, can you just comment on how you found the ABI environment as a PhD student?
I thought it was interesting and very new to me because I hadn't been in academia for a long time, maybe just like a year doing one small research project, and then I moved on to industry. So coming to academia, I think there are some moments where I thought it was quite inspiring. For example, there was this symposium that we went to in Gisborne, and their aim was to reach out to the community in Gisborne to get them to be more involved and to understand the research that the Institute is trying to do to help the community. And I really liked that kind of engagement, which I hadn't really seen before in my previous experience.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the points where I was like, oh, this is quite nice. And it's kind of touching. Yeah, because I think when you're working or just like studying in school, you don't get that many opportunities to see the impact of the research that people are doing as much. Like having come here and having that opportunity to really go out in the field and then seeing the kind of communications we have with the community, it was really nice.
So that touches on that really nice point that is so much of a part of being a large research institute with lots of international connections, is that we do get to talk to a lot of world-renowned experts as they visit us or as we visit them. So it's a great opportunity to build those research networks, just like you've been mentioning to us in terms of your experiences.
Yeah.
So would you like to tell us, Megan, a little bit more about your own research project and where that's leading you and what some of the things are that you've learned?
So my research project, I'm working on trying to extract data from lung MRI in kids. These MRI sequences are pretty new, and they give us sort of new insights into how our lungs function as you grow up. And so taking these data and putting them into some models that we've got, and we're kind of trying to push the limits and trying to develop the model to be a bit more specific to each subject, collecting maybe their anatomical structures or like getting some data on how their lungs function, and then putting this into the model. Hopefully, we can sort of investigate how your lungs ventilation or your lungs perfusion changes as you age. Especially in childhood, this can change quite a bit as you're going through, puberty, or maybe even before that. We want to know what the differences are. So that's kind of what the big aim is for my project. And also, I found that, being a student here, there are lots of chances to go to seminars or to participate in research studies. And I think that's quite valuable personally to me, because you get a chance to see how other people are doing their research, how other people are, what kind of methods they're applying to their own work, which might be useful for your project, and sometimes get paid to do research. To be a volunteer in the research study, so that helps a lot being a student. And I think also there's the Hiwa down the road, the new rec center. For a student, it's a very cheap price. I feel very fortunate that we can enjoy that kind of facility. So it's been great as a student.
That's great. Is there anything that you didn't know before you started your postgraduate research here at the ABI that you wish you'd known and you'd like to share with us?
I think I wasn't, I don't know. I don't really know what to expect. Coming here doing academia. Maybe I wasn't too sure how to, I don't know, like how to do a good literature review or something like that. But like you kind of learn as you go along, and you talk to other students, you talk to your supervisors. Things just pick up, and then like they just connect in your head.
That's often a common theme, isn't it? Where because you're working closely in not only with your supervisors, but with other students, both from your team and from other teams, you do tend to share information, share skill sets, and encourage and help each other. So I think that's a big part of being in this large research.
Yeah, there are lots of chances to socialize with the other students. Yeah, I don't know if I should go into that right now.
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, we have lots of social activities here, and then it helps you to connect with other students or other supervisors. We have like a weekly Friday drinks and pizza night, and we have some events throughout the year, like games nights or barbecue lunches. And then we also celebrate like different festivals from different cultures, I think it's quite nice. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's definitely a place where there is a lot going on, both in academic research and also, as you say, Megan, in terms of social interaction and that more holistic side of things, which we're going to talk about soon. But also as part of that, we not only focus on research, which is academic, but we're also pushing the boundaries and looking to take research, translating it into community outcomes, which have both economic and health benefits. And here are just 5 examples of many recent examples of outcomes from ABI research activities. One of these is a project looking at working with outcome of livestock, in this particular case of cows. And this is a project which has just recently had some seed funding, looking at moving into a startup company. And that's really exciting. JC, in the second example there, is part of a team that's doing some really world-leading research looking at right heart failure and some of the implications for that, and that will have long-term benefits in terms of health as well. And then the challenges around vaping, electronic cigarettes, and issues to do with health there. Kelly is leading a really good research, a series of research activities in that particular space. The ABI has long been working in the area of digital twins, that is using computational computer models to better understand the physiology of humans and how they behave, interact with certain aspects of their environments and treatments and so forth. So this is an area which is really going forward. And then in the final example, pressure sensing in the brain. And this is going forward really strongly into clinical trials, this new device which is being developed by a team here at the Auckland Bioengineering Institute. And so these are all examples of research which is taking that next level and going beyond just being initially what was an academic study into something which is being translated into health outcomes. And a lot of that has to do with being able to take ideas from academic funding stages into startup company stages. And Fung, I wonder if you might just want to say a little bit about startup companies from the ABI, please.
Yeah, so as Mark kind of has highlighted a little bit, in some of those previous examples, two of those kind of research achievements have led to spin-up companies. And the ABI has a dedicated floor in our building that is called the MedTech IQ, kind of Cloud9. This kind of creates a kind of incubator kind of environment for these potential startup companies that could spin out of the ABI. So kind of shown here are 3 examples. So the one on the right is that previous example that Mark mentioned about the kind of pressure sensor in the brain. So this company, Katia Health, has spun out of the ABI and has been producing the sensor, and now they're kind of about to approach clinical trials. In the middle, we have JunoFem, which is a startup that develops sensors for kind of pelvic floor to as a way to train and then also measure your kind of pelvic floor muscles in women. And then on our left, we have Elemetry, which is a spin-off company kind of focused on wearables for your gut health. So all of these three example companies have all spun out from research from the different groups at the Bioengineering Institute.
And so many of these things happen because we have this holistic environment at the ABI where people get together and they'll share ideas, and sometimes ideas will come together and a new concept will seed from that. And so we really encourage this holistic experience at the ABI, which is beyond just the day-to-day research, but is all about bringing us together as a research family with different interests and just enjoying each other's company. And so as part of that, we have lots of friendship and support that goes on. People that come to study at the ABI often form lifelong friendships, and they'll end up in all sorts of different parts of the world afterwards, but stay in contact because of that. There's lots of social and cultural activities. Megan, you've already mentioned some of those. And have you got anything coming up in the next few months that you're particularly looking forward to?
Not that I'm looking forward to particularly, but I'm helping to organize. There's an Easter egg hunt coming up.
Oh, great.
So we're going to be hiding some eggs.
Good. Need to get some inside information to find out where we can find some chocolate Easter eggs in the next week or two. It's always lots of fun, that, because the team hides Easter eggs around the building. And I believe that there's some special Easter eggs. If you find the special ones, then you get a special prize. So, big egg. That's lots to look forward to there. There's also different clubs and groups according to people's interests, and these come and go just depending on the different people involved. Sometimes they might be around sort of productions or things to do with, say, playing croquet and various other events like that. Not surprisingly, being a research institute, espresso coffee features quite strongly, and we have 2 espresso machines spread around the building. And because my office is relatively near one of those, I can say that they definitely get widely used, and it's just, again, a great environment where people get together, share ideas, and who knows what comes out of that particular time together. Travel and networking is a really big part. So not only do people travel to conferences, but often while they're there, they will take the opportunity either as part of a group from the ABI or through newfound friends at those conferences to also just get out and see a little bit of the world around us. And we think that all of this helps us build researchers which are not only strong in their research areas, but also informed and relevant to the world around about them. Slightly left field, but we have a massage chair, which is available to help us relax a little bit, along with some of the many other activities too. And as Megan has already mentioned, the University of Auckland has this brand new, just opened earlier this year, state-of-the-art recreational facility. That's an ideal place for students to go and to work on not only their muscles, but also just de-stressing from the other pressures of university life. And look, all of this happens in this cosmopolitan city, Auckland, that has many green spaces. We're surrounded by beaches on both sides of the city, hills and forests. So it is one of those environments where many people enjoy coming to study. Now, what happens to graduates as they leave the ABI? Fang, would you like to give us some insights, please?
Sure. So ABI graduates can end up in kind of various different places. So, for example, some go out to spin-out companies from the ABI. For example, Formus Labs is a previous kind of ABI spin-out company. Other ones go into other New Zealand-based medtech companies, such as Fisher & Paykel Healthcare, and others into your more wider worldwide tech companies, NASA, Facebook, Rocket Labs, but then also a proportion of our graduates also end up overseas at other academic institutes for future postdoc or other postgraduate studies, such as in the US and MIT, or over in Europe and UK and Oxford and many other places, not just UK and Europe, Australia and all over the world. So yeah, I think there are many opportunities for ABI graduates, after finishing their degree here at the ABI. And so if you are interested in studying at the ABIs, the following links will be very helpful for you to find out a bit more information about maybe what kind of projects are currently available or what kind of research generally the Institute does. And this will allow you to perhaps identify some certain supervisors that you might be interested working with. So feel free to reach out to email these supervisors or to just email the email address at the bottom, the bioeng-pg office@auckland.ac.nz. So this will be a kind of a general kind of email inbox where we can kind of triage and kind of answer questions and potentially put you in touch with potential supervisors that you may be interested. So just feel free to reach out to us, and or also feel free to post in the chat any questions, and then we can maybe try and answer some potential queries that you have.
Yeah, so just on that, I see that we do have a question from one of our participants this morning talking about majoring in exercise sciences and asking, would that be relevant to study the ABI? So like you've just said, Fang, if you go to that second research link there to find supervisors of research projects, you'll be able to find, for example, supervisors in the musculoskeletal group, and you could contact them and ask them if they have any projects that might fit your particular area of interest. So it doesn't really matter what you're studying. If you're studying in the area of some science, engineering, technology, or mathematics field, undoubtedly there will be a research project which will link and gel with your particular interests. And then it's just a case of saying, well, I should apply to the University of Auckland for PhD study and see how they assess my background as to whether or not I'm eligible to join in and be considered for the PhD study. So I hope to Dawn, I hope that answers your question. So yes, please do reach out. Even you're saying if I'm studying exercise sciences, please do reach out, and that is no doubt something that can be discussed with prospective supervisors. So again, this is the key email address, bioeng-pgoffice@auckland.ac.nz. Any questions, you can get in touch with that particular email. It's very well managed, and so you will get responses back according to your inquiries. But do check out those web links that we've posted already and has been posted on the chat, and you could follow through for more information there. But again, any specific questions that we don't cover today, do please make them to the Bioengineering Postgraduate Office. Many people do ask the questions in terms of funding. So we do have a range of scholarships available. Again, you need to go to the scholarships that are funded. You want to go and look at those websites that we've noted. Some projects are funded on what we call strategic priority basis, and that means that they are projects which don't have specific grant funding, but which the ABI considers could be eligible for institute support on the basis of the project type and a good student or good candidate being available for that project. And so that's something that you discuss with a prospective supervisor, and a scholarship application can go in for that. There are 4 different scholarship rounds every year. One of those is in January for applications made late in the year. Another one is coming up, well, actually this month here in April. Applications need to be in before the beginning of April, and then we have 2 more later in the year as well. And so that information is also available both from that email address, bioeng-pgoffice@auckland.ac.nz, and also on our website. For people who have a qualification from New Zealand, their latest qualification is from the country of New Zealand, and they hold a high GPA, there are also University of Auckland doctoral scholarships available. Some projects do have funding available because they are grant-funded positions, and so you can find those again on those website links that we have posted in the chat. So there's definitely funding mechanisms. Those are primarily focused on PhD studies, but there are also funding mechanisms for master's degrees as well. Again, it is a case of looking at specific project and seeing if the supervisor has a grant-based funding for those particular studies. Whichever the case may be, do please reach out and begin that discussion to see what is available. Do we have any other questions coming through our chat there? I can't see any more just at the moment. One of the other areas is if you're coming in from overseas, what do you need to have prepared, or what sort of status do you need to have? And Fun, would you like just to talk about what's required for a prospective candidate to come and study in New Zealand?
So yes, so the first step is that link that we posted, the start your application process. So that's the first step. You apply to study at the University of Auckland. So you apply, and this typically involves submitting transcripts of your kind of academic records, some referee statements, your CV, and these will be then used by the admissions team to kind of assess your eligibility to the PhD program. Your application will then be referred to our institute, and then we will evaluate your application. And typically during your application, you may have put down you were interested in working with a certain supervisor or project, and then you will be assigned to that supervisor. So that supervisor will then evaluate your application, decide if they want to take you on as a student, and this will probably typically involve some interviews or some emails and some informal kind of dialogue with you. Then after this, together you prepare a research statement, and this is then assessed by our own institute. And this will be kind of a brief summary of what you will be doing, for example, in your PhD project, kind of listing out maybe the main objectives you'll be the main research you'll be doing over the 3 years. Then after this is approved, this will all then get sent back to the admissions team, And then through that, then you will receive an offer. And then once you have this offer, if you're an international student, you can then use this offer to apply for a student visa. So then once the visa has been approved, then you can come into the country, and then hopefully then you can start your PhD. So overall, I would say, maybe from the first point where you start applying to when you get into the country, that as an international student, that could probably, I would say, maybe take up to 6 months, I would say. So yeah, maybe that halfway stage, about 3 months, is maybe what the New Zealand government typically reports as the kind of typical time for the visa to be approved, or to be kind of checked and kind of approved for you. So yeah, so maybe probably 6 months from the kind of first contact to when you start. It's maybe a rough estimate how long it will take.
One thing to keep in mind, University of Auckland or New Zealand, because we have our summer holidays around Christmas and New Year, that period of late December through to about mid-January is a period when there's not actually a lot of administrative work happening in the university environment. So if you are interested in applications and you're thinking about leaving it till later in the year, it's best to do that well before Christmas. So certainly late November is about as late as you want to leave that. Otherwise, things will be quite slow through until about late January. So that is something to factor in if you're thinking about timing for applications and how that might fit in with the academic year. If you're finishing off undergraduate or even postgraduate degrees at the moment, how will that fit in with that particular timing? But as always, it's always best to reach out as early as possible. Again, the email address, bioeng-pgoffice@auckland.ac.nz, will help give you get that ball rolling, linking through to those websites that we've said, and also making an admission or applying for admission to the University of Auckland. We'll get that process underway. Better to do that earlier rather than later. Some of the other questions that often come up is what kind of background is best to do well at the ABI? And this is an interesting question because as I think around all of our different colleagues, I mean, the background is immense. But I think you'd agree that in general, most of the people coming into the ABI as postgraduate students do have some sort of science, engineering, technology, or mathematics background. Is that correct?
That's correct. But I think I even know a student who did economics in his undergrad, and now he's doing like some kind of AI modeling learning thing. So anything goes, I think. You just need the skill set and the interest.
Yeah. So it's a very much project-based, project dependent, sorry. And a lot of those other skill sets we pick up just because of the environment in which we're in, and there are ways as part of that new postgraduate certificate course, there are some papers that students can take if they feel that they need to do them to upskill in certain areas. But in general, a technology type background is really what we're looking at the ABI. There's a question that also comes up, can I work as a student? Yes, you can. If you have a student visa, you are allowed to work for up to 10 hours per week on that student visa. And many students do take that opportunity and do tend to do some part-time work to supplement any stipend or any support that they have as a postgraduate student. Other people sometimes would like to know if they could come and visit the Auckland Bioengineering Institute and chat with certain people. We're certainly open to that. The University of Auckland, which includes the ABI as well, does have an annual open day. But sometimes if you're not able to come for that specific day, we would certainly welcome some one-off visits. And again, if you were to email the email address bioeng-pgoffice@auckland.ac.nz, you could inquire about the possibility of having that particular visit and conversation. Now, supervision. How many supervisors do people typically have when they're doing PhDs here at the ABI?
So at the ABI, we have a policy that every student has at least 2 supervisors from the ABI. So some projects, for example, ones that have some kind of collaboration with other faculties, you may have a 3rd supervisor that is from a different faculty, for example, from the medical and health science school, or maybe from the faculty of engineering. But also within the ABI, you may have up to 2 to 3 kind of supervisors, but typically it's minimum of 2. Then I guess there is no real maximum kind of number, but yeah, I would say probably 2 to 3 supervisors is what you would typically have. One of them being denoted as your main kind of supervisor, and this will be your kind of main point of contact. But then the other, you would have a certain number of co-supervisors who are part of the wider supervision team.
And those supervisors will often reflect a range of skills, so that means that the candidate is really well supported in all of the different areas represented by that range of skills in the supervisory team. As well as that, most PhD projects also have advisory team members, and they will be subject experts, not just from the ABI, but potentially from outside of the ABI. And that really helps just to make sure that all bases are being covered in terms of the wider scope and applicability of that project. That's really helpful. There's a question that's just come in. Do I need high grades or high motivation for my PhD at the ABI? Assuming that we can only have one of them in the quiver or skill set. Well, that's a good question. I mean, often the two go together, don't they? So that if you're being a highly motivated undergraduate student, often that will be reflected in high grades. Sometimes we are aware that certain things can happen that can undermine, even if you're very, you've been working really hard, can undermine the actual, number outcome of undergraduate studies. The admissions office at the University of Auckland can flag certain anomalies if you've had something that hasn't quite gone as you'd hoped in your previous study, and that can be sort of dealt with on a case-by-case basis. But of course, because this is a top-tier postgraduate degree granting organization, there are certainly entry-level standards for the University of Auckland. We seek and we expect to get the best students from wherever you're coming from in the world. So we do have some key standards, but like I say, there is some flexibility around the edges in order to ensure that the best students for the best projects can be brought together so that we get the best outcomes. But for sure, we certainly are looking for highly motivated students who are willing to work exceptionally hard during the course of their one-year master's degree or their 3-year PhD, because we are looking to have the best outcomes, not only for you as a student who is earning a PhD, a world-class PhD, but also for the sake of the project and the research programs going forward. So that's a great question, and hopefully that answer is helpful for you.
If it helps, I don't think I was a very high-grade student, but I do think I have a lot of motivation, and I think that kind of pays off.
Absolutely.
The difference.
Absolutely. That's for sure. And there's a lot of areas in which we are deficient in terms of both our knowledge and our skill sets, but part of a PhD is to train, to strengthen in those particular areas where we're a little bit weaker. And for many people coming in, writing efficiently, high volume, high quality is an area in which they need to work quite hard in their first year to try and up that particular skill.
Yeah, I do think, the first year is sort of like for you to invest in yourself and your project. You just work hard, earn your skills, and then I think if you get the skill set that you need for your project by then, in your second year it gets easier, and then the other things just come along much easier, like putting together larger scale projects from your new skills.
That's exactly right. One of the other questions that often comes up is about connections between the Auckland Bioengineering Institute and the New Zealand hospital situation. In other words, how do we work at bringing some of our academic and engineering work into a clinical type context? And we're very fortunate to have some really strong links with the hospital network in New Zealand. The ABI itself is located just a few minutes walk from Auckland City Hospital, but it also has strong connections into other hospitals, large hospitals in Auckland City and beyond into some of the other cities in New Zealand. The ABI is also part of a wider medical technology network spread throughout New Zealand. And through that network, not only do we have links into other science, technology, physiology contexts in universities, but also, again, leveraged through their links into the clinical network. And so many of us have colleagues that work in the hospital situation, and in fact, we'll have joint appointments between the hospital network within New Zealand and academic institutions like the University of Auckland and other universities. We have a question here. This particular person is doing a master's in science and artificial intelligence in England. And yes, there is a lot of focus in this area, like you point out, at the ABI. What are some of the exciting areas? Well, it's yeah, very good question, because the AI is popping up in all sorts of different areas. Fung, do you want to mention anything that's kind of a little bit on left field in the ABI research space in use of AI?
I'm not too plugged into kind of AI kind of aspects, but I definitely know that a lot of different research groups at the ABI are starting to kind of focus on this area. So kind of maybe my personal kind of background in maybe lung-related research would be, or lung and cardiac-related research would be potentially using AI to help segmentation tools, image analysis kind of tools, but also maybe using AI to, as we start getting more and more clinical data, using that to kind of try and tease out trends and kind of correlations in our clinical data. So I think potentially it's definitely like a new kind of research area in the whole of the ABI. So I think a lot of research groups would be interested in someone with a kind of AI kind of research background.
There's also the empathic computing lab, right?
Yes.
And I think they're expanding on the 5th floor soon. So that group, they're working on developing AI models that kind of understand human emotions better. It's very sci-fi. It's kind of like, the movie Her. They're kind of trying to do that, but in a more ethically acceptable way, obviously. But yeah, that group is working a lot on AI, building like very fine-tuned AI models, stuff like that. Maybe you'll be interested in that.
Yes. No, for sure. The Empathic Computing Laboratory and its principal, Professor Mark Billinghurst, who's a world-grade researcher in this space, is doing some very interesting work in terms of augmented reality. And like you were saying, Megan, trying to bring emotional interactions into that particular space. And so again, this is right out on that forefront of some of the things that are going on in bioengineering, medical technology space. And certainly AI is playing a big role in that. And we're excited as a research organization to be on the forefront of that. Some of the other questions that come in is just, again, coming back to that whole link into the clinical side of things. Often many projects will have a clinical co-supervisor, or at least a clinician as part of the wider advisory group. And again, we find that as researchers, that helps keep our focus on the end goals of a lot of our research, and that is to be able to take it beyond just the laboratory, beyond just the university, and into space, which really helps people in their day-to-day struggles and helps our health delivery environment to function more efficiently and more effectively. And as part of that, like Fung has already mentioned, we have this dedicated startup space in our building, which is there as an incubator to encourage people with startup ideas to progress those ideas and take those first steps. There is a director of that incubator space, and she and her team are able to provide postgraduate students, as they come towards the end of their time, with advice and directions in terms of taking their next step if the ideas that they have produced as part of their postgraduate work, if they would like to take them forward into potential startup space. So we do have some very nice mentoring and, if you like, training opportunities for postgraduate students to move beyond just that research and into application as startup companies. wonder if we have any more questions coming from our audience. Once again, thank you so much for joining us today. We're really impressed by the responses, your response joining us, and also the questions that you've been able to throw our way today. We have another question about how does the Auckland Bioengineering Institute ensure that my research will have a global impact? Fung, would you like to make a comment about that, please?
Maybe, how should I answer this question? So I think just overall, I think the ABI, by our kind of stringent kind of enrollment process, I think the fact that our research projects for our PhD students need to be approved internally, this kind of quality assurance, this QA kind of checking of these projects will ensure that each student has a PhD project that will have novel research outcomes that then obviously will lead to impact. It may not be global impact, there will be, there's also a lot of New Zealand focused kind of research, but it will definitely be a research project that will be novel. You will definitely have publishable outcomes, and this will have impact, albeit clinical impact, economical impact, social impact, and then hopefully this will have some sort of potential global impact. So maybe ABI can't ensure 100% global impact, but definitely you will have research that is impactful, and then you will have published research.
I think it helps that we have a lot of collaboration with internationally as well.
Yeah.
Having other researchers come here on exchange or going on exchange to other institutes worldwide, you get to share your research and maybe have a bit of impact in other people's research and maybe collaborate internationally. In that sense, perhaps you'll be able to get a wider reach of the people who can read about your research.
And one other thing I would add is the University of Auckland, as part of the PhD program, you have each year you have a certain amount of money allocated for conference travel. So typically after you get about $2,000 maybe a year, and this you can then use towards conference travel perhaps in your second year. And this usually typically will be an international conference where you have the opportunity to present the research at a conference relevant to your research topic, and this will allow you to potentially present your research to a wider kind of global audience.
Yes, we understand that to be the most effective researcher you can be, you have to be a highly effective communicator. And so we encourage our PhD students, our master's students, to become proficient at not only writing about their research, but presenting their research. And we've really talked about presenting at international conferences, and so that's an opportunity where you take the research project and you both present and defend it in front of other engineers and scientists. And so that's a way to get your impact, your research out there in an environment where it will become impactful. But we also know that the international currency of world-changing research is in the sphere of peer-reviewed publications. And so as one of our participants has asked about help in publishing, absolutely one of our goals is to train our graduate students to be effective publishers. So that means to take their concepts, their ideas, and distill them down into a way which both appeals to the community that they're focused on, the research community they're focused on, and to present those ideas in a way that can be both understood and also taken up by that community, and present them or defend them in a way so that as that work is reviewed by your peers, that you can defend and argue and set up your case for the quality of your research. And every year we have an annual award that is given out to the best publication or the most impactful publication from the Auckland Bioengineering Institute. And so this is an indication of how we value research which through academic publishing has global impact. But also the other way that we ensure global impact is just to make sure that our research is translated into ways that can then be applied both clinically and into the medical technology sphere in terms of bioengineering type products. So we're coming at this problem from multiple directions. We have another question here. Are there any blockchain related PhD topics in relation to the ABI? And what are your perspectives individually in relation to the use of this technology in the ABI, if any? Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I'm not aware of any specific use of blockchain technologies at the moment. But that's not to say that there aren't supervisors who might have peripheral interests in this particular space. And so my best advice to you is to consider looking at the list of potential topics that are being presented by different supervisors, and see if anybody is working in a space that you think might be adjacent to that, and perhaps reach out with any ideas that you might have. You never know what projects built around a team of people, not only from the ABI, but also other parts of the university, other disciplines, might be able to come together to meet your particular interest. Of course, as always, you can reach out with questions like this to the ABI or the Bioeng-PG office at auckland.ac.nz, and that particular query or area of interest can be forwarded on to relevant people as well through there. I hope that helps to answer that particular query. Do look on our website and see if there's any linkages that you can make of the use of that technology into the bioengineering space. We have another question here. Will the PhD be publication oriented or just thesis oriented? This is actually a really good question. Thank you for bringing that up. And we probably have different perspectives on that. I'll share mine, and then you might be able to share your perspective. Look, traditionally, the Auckland PhD has been a unified body of work, and so it has been thesis oriented, but we are flexible enough to recognize that many candidates and many supervisors would like to take a publication oriented thesis as well. So in other words, what that means is that during the course of your PhD work, you attempt to publish 2-3 publications, and then you wrap them in this unified thesis with introductions and linkages between those different chapters, which originally started life as individual publications, and then with discussions and conclusions that bring the whole thing into a unified whole. And I've supervised students which have adopted both of those particular approaches, and it very much comes down to the individual's choices. I'm aware of many laboratories overseas which focus just on publication theses, and the notion of bringing them together as a unified whole document is less important. So there is definitely scope for both approaches. Well, what are your thoughts?
Well, actually, I'm kind of in agreement with that. So I think, yeah, both approaches are kind of suitable. So I would like to add that I think the university has no specific guidelines of needing a certain number of publications before your PhD can be awarded. So that's not a specific requirement. Obviously, your supervisor and the ABI would encourage you to try and publish as much as you can, but there is no specific requirement. And personally, yeah, I would say you would try and publish, but then I do think the thesis should be kind of a summary, something that kind of combines the potential publications that you have, and I think that is a better kind of PhD kind of final product than kind of loose publications and separate publications without anything joined. But that obviously will depend on your supervisor and kind of discussions with your supervisor. But both approaches are, viable at the University of Auckland.
Absolutely. Well, I hope that's helpful at addressing that question. Yeah, look, in particular, the PhD thesis time is quite special in your research career, because it is the opportunity you have to dedicate those 3 years to pushing the boundaries, not only of a research problem, but also, your boundaries of what you thought were possible in terms of problem solving and communicating your findings and their importance. And it's really special, because later on in a research career, you get opportunities to write papers and other things as well, but never quite do that block of multi-year research endeavor. So we want to encourage students to also enjoy that process as well. Do we have any other questions in that particular area? I can't see anything at the moment, but again, look, thank you so much for joining us. Encourage you to reach out have a browse around the website, the linkage that have appeared in the chat space, and also specific questions and other things that you'd like to know can be emailed to the bioeng-pg office at auckland.ac.nz. So again, thank you so much for joining us today. We've really appreciated this time. It's fantastic to see so many people joining in, asking questions, and we hope that this has been of some help. Sharon, I see that you said you can't see the link we're talking about. I think it's just a little bit further up in the chat, but Ruben, who's managing this today for us, will just drop those links in, so you can see those links there. Do browse those particular websites again, and you'll find out some more information. Email bioeng-pg office, of course, if you would like that information. So thank you again for joining us, and we just hope, whether or not you're starting the day wherever you are in the world, or you're finishing your day, that you get on well, and we would love to see you joining us at some stage or other in the future here at the Auckland Bioengineering Institute to do some postgraduate study. So on behalf of myself, Mark,
Megan.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
thanks very much, and all the best.